You know what's tricky? Taking a non-Roman based language and making it into one. Like when I was young, I watched ice hockey like a lot of Swedish people do, and I still do occasionally. And I noticed how the spelling of the Russian players' names would sometime differ. Like Americans, I used to have ice hockey cards by Upper Deck and Parkhurst at that time, and like there was this guy named Alexei Yashin, and he on the American cards he was spelled like this with a Y. But then in Swedish ice hockey on the graphics and everything, they would spell it like this, and it was different. And I just like wondered why. And then you look at it, it's like, oh, you have with the Swedish pronunciation anyway. It's like the J is not J, it's Y. So Yashin and Yashin is pretty similar, but one of them has to be correct, right? But not really. Actually, not one of them is really correct because it comes from Russian, and you can convert it somehow, but you can't get it 100% because it's not the same. And then when I started studying Japanese, I came into the same problem, sort of. And when it comes to romanizing Japanese, the standard is called hepburn, and that was invented a long time ago, but it's been modified over the years and everything. And there's still some people that don't use it, to my dismay, but there's still like variations in using it. Like there's no one specific, always 100% certain rule. The easiest example is long vowels, like Tokyo. Obviously, we always write it like Tokyo, and that's just Tokyo. But then you write Kyoto, right? Kyoto is, an anagram of Tokyo. But if you look at the Japanese, it's not an anagram. Of course, first you look at kanji, and it's just nothing, so to speak. The only common one is Kyo, as for it means capital, the East capital and the capital city. However, when you read it out, it's not to. It's Japanese. You have to and to, right? So the long one, that's why this writing is the common one, and then you have Tokyo and Kyoto, not Kyoto. So it actually, if you write it out, there's one letter, so to speak, missing, which cancels the whole anagram thing. But then how do you write the long vowels? Like there's a lot of different ways. Like there's the one I prefer is T-O-U K-Y-O-U. And that's because that's how, if you write it out in hiragana, that's how it is. Just straight down, it's, T-O-K-Y-O-U. Some people write it with, instead of having the O-U for the long vowel, they have an O with a line on top. And this one I have always skipped. I don't like it myself, because in Swedish we have Ö, which has two dots on top of it. However, a lot of people when they write by hand, they just draw a line over because it's easier, faster. So I don't like to look at this. Then I see it as Tokyo, and it doesn't feel right. And having to and then a line, like to with a line, that just looks weird. And sometimes they put like T-O-O, like they have two O's to signify that it's a long O, right? But then it looks like 2Q, which is weird. So for me, Tokyo is definitely the best way of reading it, writing it. On the other hand, for things like for this example, for Tokyo, I never would write it like that myself if I wrote it down, because why? Like, sure, because the English version of Tokyo has become Tokyo. Like, you don't really need. I just don't like to go for the extra authenticity there for some reason. I'm a little strange like that. But while the long vowels are the prime example, another one that's really big is the ji, chi, she examples. Like for me, I think it's so correct that she is S-H-I, ji is J-I, and chi is C-H-I. I think that's really makes sense, and that's how it's supposed to be. However, some people write it differently. They write she sometimes just S-I, because they just ignore the H, so to speak. But Japanese doesn't have C. It's yoroshiku, it's not, it's yoroshiku. So it's a sh. So it can't be C, because it's not C, they don't have that sound. So she. But then sho, I've seen I forget which one is which actually, but I've seen ZYO. I think that's show, but that just doesn't make sense at all. So like all of those weird ones, I just want to get them out of there. But then when I thought about that, and then I realized Godzilla, right? Maybe he's named Godzilla because of this romanization confusion. Because the original Japanese title is Gojira. Gojira. And then you take the correct version of that, and it's Gojira. But in English, it sounds a little weird. The way how Gojira made it to Godzilla, I think now that it's because, first of all, R became L, which is very, common anyway. But the G part is the clincher. Because one way of writing G could be DZI. So Gojira, or Gojila, or Godzilla. When you look at Godzilla, like Gojira, whatever, and then you look at it as an English-speaking person, you don't see Gojira, you see Godzilla. You don't see Godz, you see Godzilla. And I think that's how it happened. Maybe the director or whatever, everyone started with it, or like the actors, Raymond Burr, maybe he started just, Godzilla, 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 instead of Gojira. They didn't listen to the Japanese people in 1954, that's entirely plausible. So that is my theory. Yeah, that's it pretty much. That's my theory, how Gojira became Godzilla. And I hope I'm right, and I hope I was the first person to think of it, but probably not, and probably not. But that's it anyway. That's all, folks. Hey, buddy.